So today I'd like to do a follow-up on a story that I covered yesterday, which is pretty much the trending story in the entire Caribbean, and that is the Donald Trump administration along with Secretary of State Marco Rubio, a letter that was sent out to the leaders across the Caribbean, and not just the Caribbean, but because we are a Caribbean channel, we're talking about the Caribbean, that was sent out to leaders about the Cuban medical worker program, and that if they continue to participate in it, that leaders could see their visas gone. So that is the story that I covered yesterday, and about two leaders in the Caribbean that stepped up, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago and the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, that they put out statement that, look, if we would rather to give up our visas, but we're not going to cut our contract with the Cuban medical providers. And so having a conversation in the comment section, because one of the things that we do here at Carib 21 is that we don't really consider ourselves a news channel. We talk about things that's trending in the Caribbean, stories in the Caribbean, and we have, we come together in the comment section and we have conversation, we have discussion in the comment section. So overwhelmingly, a lot of people in the comment section were in favor of Caribbean leaders, standing together, standing strong and supporting Cuba. But there are some people in the comment section, one in particular that was saying that, look, you guys don't know what you're talking about, you're reading this thing wrong, and you don't know about Cuba. And the thing is that I don't know if this person is uninformed, uneducated, or whatever. So normally I'm not in this idea of responding or going back and forth with people in the comment section because, as I said, this channel, we communicate, we have conversation in the comment section. We try to respond to as much in the comment section, whether by, thumbs up, liking it, or, having a conversation in the comment section, because that is what this channel is all about, having the entire Caribbean coming together to have these type of discussion. Okay, so for those who believe that the Trump administration have a right to describe the Cuban medical program as human trafficking, and that the leaders in the Caribbean so far, the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, that they are overreacting, and that people that are deciding to stand with Cuba don't really know what is going on. And you know what's going on, and what is going on in Cuba is human trafficking. You obviously have no idea what you're talking about. So let me educate you. So this program has been around for over 50 years, as I stated in the last video. Over 24,000 doctors and nurses, medical practitioners from Cuba are across the world, over 50 countries, working in over 50 countries across the world. And this has been happening for decades because people who know that Cuba have one of the best medical programs in the entire world. So these doctors, if you go to Jamaica right now, if you go to St. Vincent and you go to the hospital, chances are you're going to see a Cuban doctor. What the Prime Minister, Ralph Gonsalves, said in his speech, that the dialysis program in St. Vincent and the Grenadines would have to completely shut down if not for the Cuban doctors. You tell me, you go to a medical facility and there are people there that have been trafficked, because I don't know about you, but when I hear about human trafficking, these people are under duress. These people, you imagine people handcuffed or in shackles somewhere and being depressed, and that is not the case. You go to the hospital in Jamaica, you're getting some of the best care. You go to St. Vincent, you're getting the same thing from Cuban doctors. These doctors are not like locked away in some prison after they're finished working. These doctors go around every day, they live their life. And as I explained in the video yesterday, I know a Cuban doctor in Jamaica that came from Cuba, worked in Jamaica, got married to someone in Jamaica, and is living in Jamaica, living his best life. that does not sound like human trafficking to me. And this is not new for, like countries to demonize, in particular America, for the past 60 years, to demonize Cuba and what is going on in Cuba. And for most people that live in the United States of America, live other places in the world, never been to Cuba because of what they have heard about Cuba. It is unfortunate because Cuba is one of the most beautiful places in the world. Cuba is one of the safest places in the world. Despite the over 60 years embargo, you can walk anywhere in Cuba without fear of being shot or robbed. When we visited Cuba, like even downtown, walking around Cuba, we felt safe. Never had to clutch your purse or to hold on to your wallet. That is not happening in Cuba. But when you listen to the media, that is what you think that is happening in Cuba. Cuba was categorized as a terrorist country. And to me, that is laughable because you go to Cuba. Okay, so let's talk about Cuba. You go to Cuba, as opposed to some places in the Middle East where they say women have no right in those places. They can't wear what they want to wear. They can't drive. They can't do all these things. You go to Cuba. Women in Cuba have just as much right as anyone else. They dress the way they want to dress. They do whatever they want to do. They can drive. And this does not sound like the type of country that is described when the American media talk about Cuba. It doesn't sound anything like Cuba. And it is the Cuban people, to me, are the most resilient people. And for people that have been watching this channel and for people that know me, know that Cuba is actually my favorite place in the world. Because Cuba, I cannot see any other country that could survive an embargo for over 60 years. We see what is going on in Haiti. We see the turmoil in the streets of Haiti. We see like the gang violence and everything that is going on. We saw what happened in Rwanda. We saw what happened in any country in Africa that has been destabilized. And we see the chaos that happened in those countries. For 60 years, over 60 years, Cuba have been fighting an embargo. And there's no uproar in the street. You go to Cuba, you are safe as anywhere else in the world. So for those who think that Cuba is this crazy wild place where, you cannot go and as categorized as a terrorist country, that could not be further from the truth. Here at Carib 21, I'm on a mission to showcase the vibrant culture and the breathtaking beauty of the Caribbean while showcasing our culture and what is trending. If you want to support me on this mission, please subscribe. And if you also want to support, you can hit the comment section and buy me a cup of coffee. In order to buy me a cup of coffee, you can follow these instructions. Just click more. You will see the link to buy me a cup of coffee. Click the link. You can purchase 1 or 2 cups of coffee and you'll be helping me to fulfill this mission. Thank you. And I can hear people justifying this move now and say, yes, the American government, the Donald Trump administration under Marco Rubio, they have a right to go in and to do this to Cuba because Cuba is a communist country. Let me ask you this question. Do you think the American government is doing this because they care about the pain and suffering of the Cuban people? Answer that question. And if you can't answer that question, where was America when South Africa, the apartheid government in South Africa, America was actually one of the last countries to step in to that. Do you know who was there in that time? Cuba. The Cuban government was there. When Angola was going through their liberation, where was America at the time? Do you know who was there to help them being liberated? The Cuban government. And the list goes on. And this is a level of hypocrisy that is it's hard to explain. Because, as I said, this embargo has been around now over 60 years. Over 60 years since the Cuban Revolution, things have not changed, over 60 years. And within that time, what has happened within that time? China, a massive country, communist country, China has improved a lot since the 60s. But don't forget that China was a communist country. And China, as America, a lot of people would say, American officials say China is the biggest threat to America. What did the American officials do? What did American business people do? Relocate businesses to China and made billions of dollars in China doing business with China for over 60 years now. So let me get this. China is a communist country. China had the one-child rule. Cuba didn't have anything like that. China had a lot of restriction on women. China had a lot of questionable practice over the past 60 years. All of this time, America traded with China. China became a superpower because of businesses that were done in China. For all of us that have an iPhone and we have all of these things in our house, say made in China, that started under a communist regime. So how do we justify doing business with China but trying to suffocate the people of Cuba? Another thing, everybody's running to Dubai now. Everybody's running to Dubai. Like a lot of women from America, running to Dubai and they're taking pictures and they're putting up pictures on Instagram and they're posing. The same Dubai that years ago women could not drive, can't vote, you couldn't drink, you couldn't do all of these type of things. But the American government and the international community still traded with Dubai. The countries in the Middle East, nameless countries in Africa, the Rwanda genocide, countless of things that happened that the American government did not step in. So if you're there sitting down thinking now that the American government is doing this because they are, defending the plight of the Cuban people, you are wrong. You are very wrong. The American government don't care about the Cuban people, because if you care about the Cuban people, this would be the worst way to show it. Because, so since the Donald Trump administration came back, Joe Biden lift the terrorists, they designate Cuba as a terrorist country. I don't know how that is possible. So Joe Biden lifted it before he left office, which was a crazy move that people was saying, why didn't you do that, in the first year? Why did you wait until the last minute to do that? The first thing that Donald Trump did when he came in was, okay, you're back on this list. You're a terrorist country. The remittances, it was said that up to about 70 to 75% of Cubans depend on remittance to pretty much live an okay life, not a decent life, but just to survive, because people would send money back to Cuba. What did the Trump administration do? Cut remittance. So this now is another attempt to cut any money from going into Cuba. So let me understand this. So if this plan goes through and there's no money at all going into Cuba, and Cuba will go back to what we saw with Ethiopia, in the 80s, where you're showing people starving for debt and people dying in the street. That is what you do because you care about the Cuban people? I don't think so. And the thing too, for people who agree with this move from Donald Trump, they're not even looking into the Caribbean. Just use the Caribbean for an example. A lot of doctors around the Caribbean comes from Cuba. Jamaica alone, Jamaica has over 400 Cuban doctors presently. The foreign minister just came out and stated those numbers, that over 400 Cuban doctors currently in Jamaica, and the system would pretty much collapse without those doctors. I was talking to someone the other day and they said we're talking about the healthcare system in Jamaica. And the person was telling me that a family member was sick in Jamaica and they went to take them to the hospital. And when they went to the hospital, there was no beds and the person had to sit out in the hallway. And the person ended up dying in the hallway because of how the healthcare system is. Lack of doctors, lack of nurses, bed spaces and all of that. So you're going to tell me that to move all the Cuban doctors from Jamaica, Trinidad, St. Vincent, Barbados, wherever, without being able to replace these doctors, that is a good idea? That is what we're going to support the Trump administration doing? So I don't know. I don't know anyone that is watching what is going on and can justify this. And to me, if you are watching and you can say, you know what, I support Donald Trump doing this, be careful, because what goes around comes around. And it might be at Cuba, at their doorstep today, but it could be at your doorstep tomorrow. So be careful how you celebrate when someone else is being trampled on, because you could be next. So guys, sound off in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on this. What do you think about people who justify this situation? What do you think about people who are saying, yes, Donald Trump has a right to do this. He has a right to threaten all the Caribbean countries. And as I said, not just Caribbean. It is 53 countries that Cuban doctors are, deployed to. And these 53 countries are on the list of countries that Donald Trump is trying to say, look, if you don't get rid of your doctors, we're going to take away your official visa. So sound off in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on this. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content. And remember, peace. I'm out.